Hello children, today we will talk about the outbreak of the February revolutions. So my dear children, in my previous videos lectures I have explained to you about the background of the February revolutions in Petrograd, because as we see that after the World War I in Russia, the peoples of Russia, they faced lot of problems during the time of Tsar Nicholas. So it was the king who was not at all taking care of the peoples. So after the First World War, the peoples of Russia faced lot of troubles, lot of difficulties in the society, and after facing such kind of challenges in the society, they started the February revolutions in Petrograd, because as we know that the responsibility of the government is to take care of the peoples, but here the peoples were forsaken, they were not at all taken care of, and when they were facing the shortage of food, the shortage of bread, then there was lack of democratic structures of government, there was shortage of bread and food, and at the same time there was no better wages, there was no better working hours, and due to that they started the revolutions in Petrograd, which is called the February revolutions of 1917. So my dear children, already in previous videos lectures we had discussed about the background of the February revolutions, and we have learned that how people they started the revolutions, how peoples they formed the associations, how they started the strikes by going towards the buildings, going towards the official buildings and started the striking. And also we learned in previous videos class that the government who try to control the situations. So even after controlling the situations, again the peoples they came forward to started the revolutions in Petrograd. So my dear children, on Sunday the 25th February, here what we see that the Duma was suspended by the government here. So who is the Duma? The elected representatives. So here Tsar Nicholas, being the government of the nations, what he did was he suspended the Duma, though the Duma was from his supportive party, but what he did was he cancelled the Duma and he suspended it. And when he suspended the Duma, we understand that the politicians who were part of this Duma, they spoke many things against the rulers, because they did not want to have the suspensions of the Duma here. And what they were willing to have, they were willing to preserve the elected government. But here the Duma was suspended on 25 February and it was done by Tsar Nicholas. So on 27 February, what we see was when the government suspended the Duma, during that time the politicians they spoke against the ruler, but the peoples, the common peoples were facing lot of difficulties after the First World War. What they did was they are continuously doing the revolutions. They are capturing the police headquarters. They are going towards the official building. They are fighting against the ruler. And why the peoples are fighting? What was the reasons of their fighting? Because here the peoples, after doing the revolutions, after doing involving in these revolutions, they are raising the slogans. They are raising the slogans here. And what is the slogans all about? They are talking about the shortage of bread. They are talking about the better wages. They are talking about better working hours. They are talking about democratic systems of governance. So these are the demands which was not there during the time of Tsar Nicholas, during the time of Tsarist, the ruler of Russia. Because the rulers was not at all able to say anything to the industrialists. The industrialists were misusing the peoples. They were exploiting the peoples, but the ruler was not at all saying anything to them. And that is the reasons we see the peoples, the common peoples, the worker were not given better wages. And there is shortage of bread. Why there is shortage of bread? Because after the first world war, we understand that the crops has been totally damaged. So there is a shortage of bread. There is a bad weather conditions. There is no better wages. There is no better working conditions. There is no democratic structures of government. So what is the problems here? So whenever the king is willing, he is cancelling the Duma. He is cancelling the representatives. He is cancelling the elected members. So these are the problems which the peoples are facing. So here, why the peoples are continuously putting the slogans here? Because they wanted to have a new democratic structures of government where the powers will be resting among the people. But in Russia, after the First World War, we do not see the democratic structures of government. Only there is a monarchy systems. So my dear children, when the strikes was going to be very, very effective, when people they started the struggles movements, when they put up the slogans, during that time the government who was trying to control the situations, but the government was totally failed. So here, what the government is doing during such kind of situations is calling out the cavalry, the police officers to control the situations, but the situations was not controlled. And what happened after that? We see that by that evening, even the soldiers are joining the hands of the striking worker. Then after joining the hands of the striking worker, they are forming the councils, which is called the Soviet, which is called the Duma, which is called the Soviet or the councils. And what they did, they gathered together in the same place called Duma, where the elected representatives were meeting, or they were having meeting in Duma. So here, what soldiers are doing? The soldiers did not attack the striking worker. They did not obey the government. But what they did, they joined their hands together with the striking worker. After joining the hands together with the striking worker, what they did? They formed the union. They formed the councils called Petrograd Soviet. So after forming the Petrograd Soviet, what they did? On the very next day, they went towards the king called the Tsar. Then after that, what the military commander is doing? He is saying that now it's out of my control. I cannot do anything on your favor. So the military commander is saying, Tsar Nicholas, to abdicate the positions. So here the military commander, he is advising these kings to abdicate his power, abdicate from his positions. And the Tsar Nicholas, he was not at all having any supports from the public. Yet the publics as well as the soldiers, they join their hands together. They form a strong public campaign, and the peoples, they have a strong support. And during that time, the commander is saying that I cannot do anything for you because now the public is pressurizing. So now it's the time to come down from your positions. So here, Tsar Nicholas, he obeyed the advice of the military commander, and on 2nd March, he stopped his positions, or he came down from his positions. And after that, we see all these Soviet leaders, they formed the provisional governments to run the nations. So here, what the peoples are doing, they are saying continuously to the ruler that they do not want to have the monarchy systems. What kind of systems they want to have? Democratic structures of government. And exactly it was happened. The Tsar Nicholas, he was been removed from his positions on 2nd March, and after he was been removed from his positions, here the Petrograd Soviet, they formed the provisional government so that they could run the nations. So how they run the nations here? It was through the Constituent Assembly. How the Constituent Assembly was been elected? It was through the process or on the basis of universal adult franchise. So through the process of universal adult franchise, the Constituent Assembly was being elected, and they began to say that they are going to decide the future of Russia. And who will be deciding the future of Russia? The elected representatives. How the elected representatives are going to be elected? It is through the process or on the basis of universal adult franchise. So my dear children, here we understood that the February revolutions in 1917, which abdicated the positions of Tsar Nicholas. So here, in these February revolutions in 1917, we see the new structures of government, a democratic structures of government, because in these February revolutions itself, the kings, the emperor, the monarchy, Tsar Nicholas, he was been removed from his positions, and a new structures of government came into being, that is called the provisional government, and the provisional government will be deciding the future of Russia. So my dear children, here we understood the outbreak of the February revolutions. How the February revolutions happens? So when the Duma was being cancelled, during that time the politicians, they spoke against the ruler, and during that time on 27th February, all the peoples, they joined their hands together, they captured the police officers, they captured the police headquarters, and the peoples, they kept on raising the slogans, and the slogans were on the shortage of bread, the better wages, the better working conditions, the democratic structures of government. And during such kind of situations here, the government is trying to control the situations, but the government is totally failed. And on the very next day, what we see, or on the very next evening, we see the soldiers joining their hands together with the striking worker, forming the Soviet, and after forming the Soviets, they are moving towards the king, and here the military commander, he is convincing the kings that he is not at all going to do anything for the favor of king, because the public is pressurizing, the publics do not want the monarchy systems, they wanted to have a new systems of government. What kind of government that is? A democratic structures of government. And on 2nd March, the king Tsar Nicholas, who obeyed the advice of the military commander, and during that time we see the formations of the provisional government, and the provisional government was elected through the process of universal adult franchise. So my dear children, here in this topic we see that the February revolutions of 1917, which happened in Russia and which completely drained the monarchy systems, and they formed a new system of governance that is known as the democratic system of government. Thank you so much for listening to me.